Hope you have been fine. This is where we left off the last time. If you haven't seen the video, make sure that you go check it out. You can find the link somewhere around here. Okay, so today let's discuss for loops. It's kind of important, right? So as usual, I'm going to go ahead and create a new file here. So let's call it for loop example. Oops. Example.cpp. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and copy paste this usual stuff. Let me see, where is it? Okay. Much more easier to do it from here. Just so we, don't end up wasting time, even if it's precious seconds. Okay. Now that we're all set up, let's talk about for loops. So what exactly are they? For loops are used when you want to execute certain conditions several times continuously. Okay, so many situations may arise in software development or game development where you want a certain thing to happen again and again, right? Repetition of stuff. So I can give you an example. For example, in a game where you have to collect coins and you want the coins to come up again and again and again and again. So for loop is a way of doing that, although I wouldn't recommend actually using a for loop for doing that. But it's just an example of, getting repetitions or repetitive nature. Because, and it makes our workflow or a programmer's workflow much easier, because you don't have to do the same thing again. You only need to define the logic once and then set your conditions in the for loop for as many times as you want that logic to repeat. And you're practically done. If you've executed it correctly, logically speaking, if there are no errors, then you can achieve the repetition quite easily. Okay? But again, for loops aren't an end-all be-all kind of situation. Okay, there are alternatives of getting this repetitive condition, which we will discuss in one of the future videos. But yeah, it's just an option for programmers and developers. Let me give you like a really basic example, which will help, really drive the nail. So, I've already gone ahead and defined all of that. The way you do that is for loop has a structure, yes, some syntax. So you need to type for, and it's already detected that. When you press enter, it's giving all of this. We don't need that. So let me just get rid of all that stuff for now. Okay. So in a for loop, you need to follow it up by 2 circular brackets, and inside those brackets must be 2 semicolons. Why the semicolons? Because first you need to initialize something, and then you need to give its logic, and then you need to update it. So updating means giving in the condition for whether you want to increase that particular value or decrease that particular value. So I actually have a very good flow chart, but I'll show you that after we discuss this example. So for simplicity's sake, let's just define an integer in here, integer value. So int value, as usual, a value. And I'm going to initialize this to 0. To 0. Next, I will say that my value, a value, is less than or equal to 5. Okay, and I will say a value plus plus. Now I'll get rid of that, and I'll just see out a value. What do you think will happen? Pause the video at this moment. Think about what will happen. All right? Just think. You don't have to do anything. Okay, welcome back. If you've given it some thought, Thinking is always good for the brain. Let's save the program and run it by clicking this play button. Okay, it's compiling. Now, yes, obviously you can go in here and type, cout 1, cout 2, cout 3, cout 4, all the way up to the end of the world. But that's not the point. That's just being repetitive. In this case, it's just a single value number. What if you were doing some intense calculation that you wanted, and you wanted that calculation to be repeated in a certain number of way? Would you really go ahead and do it again and again and again? No, that's just wasting time and space, not to forget. One thing that I must point out here is that you may have seen, you must have noticed that I created an integer value right inside the for loop. Okay, you can do this outside as well. And like we discussed last time, if you do it outside, it would become a global variable. But for now, this variable, a value, is localized to the particular for loop. It won't even be detected or accessed outside my loop. And also the thing is, whenever you're using loops or if statements, so that's your if statement, else if statement, and else statement, for loops, while loops, which we'll discuss later. If preceding that particular part, if there is only one line of code, you can get away without writing curly brackets. But if you have more than one line of code, you have to put it in curly brackets. You have to loop it up in the curly brackets. Otherwise, you're going to get some weird errors. Okay? But if it's just a single line of code, it doesn't really matter. You can put curly brackets if you want. You don't have to put them. I don't put them if it's just a single line. Anyways, so yes, you can go ahead and arrange this properly by giving it some new lines or printing it in a proper way. But I think this is a really crucial initial example, right? Now, let's go ahead and talk about the flowchart, which I was telling you about earlier. Here we go. So this is it. Let me see if I can open it up in a new tab. Yes, there we go. So you can see the condition here for init. Init stands for initialization. Then it's the condition and then the increment, which I said. So it's increasing or decreasing. It's up to you. Or it's not up to you, but it's up to the use case scenario, right? So you initialize the value first, and then it moves on to the condition. As you can see from this flowchart, if the condition is true, the code block is executed, incremented, and it goes back to the condition. And this particular thing will keep on repeating until the condition is false. And once it's false, it's going to break out of this loop. And that's what is happening here. What happened here was we initialized a value to 0, and then we said that the maximum value that it can go to is 5, right? Like it said. And then we said that a value plus plus and cout a value. So this particular part of cout a value got repeated until the value of a value reached 5. If I put 500 here, you will see 500 lines, 500 digits down there. Okay, technically not 500, you'll see 501 because it's initialized to 0. But I think you get the point. Really useful stuff. But again, I must tell you, this is not the end-all be-all solution for repetitive work. All right, there are other ways. Some ways are suited for different scenarios. For loops are suited for different scenarios. So it depends on what you're doing. It depends on what your purpose is. And it depends on what you want to achieve with your code. Right? And yes, for loops aren't always suitable, right? Because you can do things in a much better way. Okay? But those things are beyond the scope of this particular video. I have a great tutorial or a documentation lined up over here, which you can go through for some detailed theory. Now, if you're wondering why I open up documentations again and again, it's because I really like reading them and I find it's a really good way of learning anything new. Also, the thing is, it makes my job easier because whatever I say is already here in the documentation. I just summarize it for you in a way that you can understand it. But obviously, I don't go into that much detail, as you might have noticed, because all the detail that you could want is in this documentation. You can even literally Google for loop C++ and you can open up any page, as long as it's a reputable website, because they do all kinds of things on the internet these days. But yeah, this website is a good one, Tutorials Point, and they're not sponsoring me or anything, but I just like visiting this page. So it's got quite a bit of C++ stuff, as you may have seen from one of my earlier videos. Anyway, just wanted to let you know why I refer to this documentation again and again. Anyways, good to see you back. I hope you all are safe. Now, keep in mind, if you're going outside, please wear a mask, okay? It's very important that you do. Thank you for watching the video. Hit the like button if you liked it. Hit the subs button if you loved it. And if you hit the subs button, all your dreams are going to come true, believe me. If the only thing you've dreamed of is learning C++ and eventually game development, then all your dreams are going to come true. Just hit the subs button. Alright, I'll see you later. Have a good day.